try and get up to speed as well. But I can tell you a bit how we go about things at Ovation. So, starting off with our corporate social responsibility. So, for us, this all starts at our strategic level, and we put together a bit of a strategic plan in conjunction with management and our board of directors, and it really sort of sets out how we want to operate, what success means for us, and how we want to be viewed by others as well. So, and a big part of that, obviously, we want to be profitable and things like that, but things like, you know, being a leader in an environmental space, looking after staff, looking after farmers, looking after, you know, the environment, things like that. So we start there, and then if we just sort of take that through to the sort of levels that we look at, I mean, this is all about, for us, is enhancing our reputation within the communities that we operate in. So that we, I mean, people talk about being given a social license to operate, and that's really making sure that you're contributing positively to the communities that you're in, and not just looking for straight out profit all the time and things like that. So with staff, you know, for us, we want people to come and work for us, and we want to retain them, and, you know, that's through a number of measures. Like, we want to be known in the community for that, so that people are happy to recommend us as an employer. And so that's, you know, people go home safely every day, we're paying them competitively, things like staff sales, you know, people do leave us, and one of the biggest things they say is how good the staff sales is, how cheap it is, things like that, you know, and that all just breeds, you know, positive things about the company. Service awards, we provide career opportunities. Pastoral care, one in the community, is we have people from overseas, I've told you this before, but you know, just integrating them into the community. So a lot of communities think, I don't know if you've heard the acronym NIMBY, which is not in my backyard, where people don't want things to happen in their backyard, you know, putting a cell phone tower and things like that, and people get scared when we bring in migrants that we're going to lump them all in as their neighbours, and so we spend a bit of time, you know, getting them involved with sports clubs and church groups, and making sure that they, you know the way around and stuff, and don't cause any issues. Well, good staff facilities as well. That's one area. Another area is just supporting communities that we, and we generally have a policy that we support rural communities in the areas that we operate. So we've got processing plants around the North Island, and so we tend to sort of focus on those areas, and that's where most of our farmer suppliers are. That's where most of our staff live. So we try and support those areas. We do things like factory open days, and that's just to educate people on what we do, and you know, how much we contribute as well. A lot of people don't know that, you know, that we've got 300 or 400 people working at each factory, and that we, you know, our wages that we put into over the year can be like 15-20 million into that area, and the flow-on effects for businesses in those areas. So we sponsor a lot of things like school pet days, or dog trials, or sharing competitions. We either give cash or product for those kind of things. We try and help, you know, up and coming talent in New Zealand go through. We've been the main sponsor of a guy called Taylor Waite, he's from Hawke's Bay here, mountain biker. He's been now picked up by Fox and Yeti, so we're a bit beyond our reach now, but we've just got a brother and sister, twins out of Gisborne, that are into canoeing, and Jacqueline in particular looks like she's going to be the next Lisa Carrington. So we do that, you know, and rugby clubs, Poverty Bay Rugby. Gisborne AMP Show, we're one of the main sponsors there. It's quite a big event for that town, and it's really just getting our support and behind it, make sure it happens. Having, you know, we run competitions and stuff there as well for farmers. The Waipawa Farming Cadet Trust, which is it's like a Smedley. You guys might know a Smedley Farming Cadetship down here. Up in Gisborne, actually, it's shown that their farm's actually going into trees, so that they're relocating that at the moment, but we need farmers to be successful, they need staff, we want people coming through in that area and want to be farmers, so we sponsor that outfit so that we can help get it. It also provides a link with our company, so we can tell them what we do, they get an education, come and spend time in our business. And so, if they go and become farmers somewhere else or farm managers, there's a possibility they can supply us the livestock because we've got that link. So,
can I just ask a quick question with the cadetship one? What is it? You say main sponsor. Is that financially sponsoring?
Financially sponsoring and time.
Yes, with the education.
They come into our plants and they also contribute. The Gisborne A&P show. They'll come and be on our stand and help interact and do the land competitions and stuff like that as judges, and they learn around that stuff, and we provide them company gear and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good example, girls, because we talked about how the corporate social responsibility should align with the company's values. And so Mr. Bayliss was just saying how they specifically like sponsoring that cadetship because they want those young up-and-coming people to be potentially one day part of their business, or they could be a staff member, they could be a farmer supplying stock to them. So it's kind of a relationship that could be growing for years to come, right? So that's a really good example, that one. Cool.
So we also take part in a lot of sort of industry and community groups, and we have people sitting on beef and land councils for different areas, and they work on things like with government around regulation, and we participate in that and try and support the pastoral farming side of New Zealand to make sure that it's successful. We have industry organisations, the Meat Industry Association, where several of us sit on different groups in there, like working groups on HR or immigration or technical market access for overseas. So it's just a bit of making sure that we are contributing to that for the greater good of New Zealand exports. I sit on groups with local councils, and that's looking at like the local infrastructure, what we need, make sure they know about what we need. They give us an opportunity to do it ourselves rather than build something ourselves and charge us for it. We'll do things ourselves. Obviously, it's a bit different because we've got a couple of daughters at school here, but we do other things at other schools like Napier Boys with ag classes and Fielding High School, I think they call themselves now, as a gateway program in there, so to try and again get kids into our schools. And we, lots of overseas delegations, whether it's for the industry or whether it's just for could be New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, or it could be just tourism and things like that. We bring people through our sites and open them up with that. Environmental, this is obviously a big area for everyone really, but particularly for us in that sheep and beef farmers, we want them to be successful, and we want sheep and beef farming to be a viable and successful sort of sector, and we don't want everything going into pine trees. So we can do that through a lot of ways, but help with that through a lot of ways. But first, internally in our own system, we obviously we want to reduce waste, and that could be recycling, or it could be just minimising the amount of trade waste we put out, reducing our gas usage, things like that. We have to comply with a whole lot of consensus from that as well. We tend to go above and beyond that, just to be, again, be seen as leaders in the environmental space. We measure our carbon footprint, and we do that annually. push that further. And we assist farmers, a lot of farmers, especially over recent years, farmers had a lot coming at them around regulations around environmental. So we try and help them understand that and put plans in place to try and meet that when needed. We have other things that we do, like we're involved in a Trees for Survival program, which is is where we pay for a nursery to go into a primary school. They grow native trees, and then we run a competition with our suppliers to go and be drawn for that, and the kids go and plant, along with our staff, go and plant the trees on their property. So it's just a bit about giving back, but it's also making sure that not against trees, we just want the right trees in the right place. So this a bit of the environmental, and now we just did our Gisborne factory, and we recently built this big area here, which is a wastewater treatment plant, and some of that was around meeting some requirements that we needed to for discharge to the council. But we spent about $4.5 million on that, and we probably could have spent a fraction of that and treated what we needed to meet the consents by putting a whole lot of chemical in there and doing a whole lot of different things, which wouldn't have really been a great outcome, but it would have made us tick the box. We've gone sort of over and above that, and we've, our consent levels, if they say, just pick it up and say 500 for something, we're sort of at 100. So we've future-proofed everything, and what it leads on to is we actually put it through a UV clarifier at the end and treatment, and we can at the moment use that. We're surrounded in farmland. It could be irrigation and fertiliser and for that. So it's just demonstrates we're not just thinking about the bottom line. We're just going, trying to future-proof and make sure we're in a good space there as well. That's just the Waipawa farming cadet thing about getting equipment to farming. This is a sort of Gisborne show, chilled land competitions. We have quite a presence there in terms of people on site. We use it to educate people about what we do at work as well. This is the Trees for Survival thing that we do. So that's just actually with a primary school in Gisborne. This is them there. So they do all from the little seedlings, they plant them all and then take them through to a period of time when they can plant them. And we've just had a recent planting day where our staff got involved and all these kids went out and planted these native trees in one of our suppliers farms. And obviously this is Tyler Waite, supporting him, but try and link this to the health benefits of land as well, so that you are what you eat, meet your addiction kind of stuff, so that and it's a bit like the Eva Swindells and you guys might not remember these girls, but they represented sort of the New Zealand meat industry stage. Righto, so that's corporate.
Yep, that's fantastic, thank you.
Keep it moving, just ask any questions you need to. Okay, on to management structure. So this is Ovation's, the office in Hastings, that's their management structure. I'm guessing this is reading, I think it's probably regarded as a tall structure. Our structure is set up based on the functional requirements of the business. So the different functions are things like finance, and accounting, the financial side, the livestock procurement side, the operations side, the sales and marketing and shipping side of things. So all those areas that we need, and we need a decent amount of resource in there to be able to do that well. There's some areas that are not in, that we utilise legal advice sometimes, but we don't have a legal person in house because it doesn't happen enough to warrant a full-time person. So we contract that kind of stuff out. It looks like quite a tall structure, but that's probably the way we've had to fit it all on there. And in reality, we try and operate it as a reasonably flat structure, and that's just the way that we try and involve a lot of people in the decision making and involved in having a say in what happens at work. And if we have a senior management team, but there is people from all over this thing that sit in on that. So it looks like people at the top are all the bosses, but they're not really. So this is a little bit different in another part of our business, and which is our pet food business and what Crown. That's, you can see, is a much flatter structure, and that is because of they're growing quite rapidly, this business. But at the moment, as we've been growing, they haven't got like a chief financial officer or a head of HR or anything like that. Ovation provides the management services because they're not big enough to have them themselves. So there's a lot of that happens at that site. That will grow, and it is growing pretty fast. And as sort of the right time comes when they need someone themselves, a dedicated person, and when it makes more sense to do that, there will be people added to this structure on those sites. When we talk about functions, you need someone who's got the skills and leadership to be able to lead each of those functions, and then you have obviously team and below them whatever you need to do to resource that to run the business. So and we all have to sort of operate to a set of rules, which I don't know if you'll be able to see this a bit, but it's the delegated authorities, so this is the rules around who can spend money to what level, who can approve things like travelling overseas or employing people, or who can set what's prices for livestock, and so it's got all the role titles across the top, and it says, for instance, if we want to spend over $500,000 on buying a bit of equipment, we need the board approval, and it's also got to be recommended by myself, our CEO, and the managing director. And then it gets down to things like employing people. If you're just employing a replacement person, there might be just a couple of us that need to get involved in that process, and that just makes sure that not everyone has a checkbook and goes out there and starts doing things that you lose control over the business, really. So that's sort of our guide.
You'll be able to share this PowerPoint with us, so we can.
Yeah, you won't circulate it outside.
Oh no! I just thought some of the points are quite. I mean, I could pick and choose some bits and pieces out of it if you'd prefer, but or you can take this off it before you give it to us. But some of the stuff on here would be really helpful for them to look back at. Not necessarily this particular, but
there's some stuff. I can give you bits and pieces of that, no problem.
That'd be cool. Thank you.
That was really it on management structures. So is there?
Yep. No, you're good. Keep going. Well, I can follow up if we need to.
Financial reporting. So this is particularly important if you want to have an insight into what's happening into your business and how you're travelling, and what you can do to influence outcomes. We have a team of management accountants that generate a lot of reports every day, and we don't want to make sure that they generate too much information, because that gets a bit pointless sometimes, but you want to know the key information every day. So it all starts with budgets, really. So you sort of set a plan, might be for the year, or it might even be just for next week, what you want to achieve. And in our business, we do a budget, but it's pretty hard to to do that because there's so many things that can influence it, like exchange rates or wars around the world, and it changes where we can sell or how much we can sell for tariffs going into the US, things like that. So we need to do it for the bank, but it's quite good for costs, for controlling costs, so that you can sort of track how you're going in that part. We put out a plan every week on what we expect to make in the following week, and that's reflected in a production plan to each of our factories. And so this is what you do, and this is what we expect you to deliver. And then we have every day, by 11 o'clock every day, we put out a profit and loss report for each plant. So the plant gets that prior to we get on a Teams meeting at 11 o'clock, and we discuss that, and they get it beforehand, and they can tell us, they look at variances, where have they achieved it or have they not achieved it, what they were supposed to, and why. And the reason we do it daily is because if there's been a mistake made or an opportunity lost, we know about it a day later. We don't know about it a month later or a week later or whatever when we do a set of financial statements. So it keeps everything timely and gives you the ability to react. And if there's a problem, it's usually an aberration. It's not an ongoing thing. Cash flow forecasts. You need to know. It's all very good, selling something at a huge margin or a profit, but if you don't get the cash in, then it's it gets hard to operate because you've got to pay. We have to pay staff weekly, and we pay farmers fortnightly for their livestock. They're probably our two biggest costs, but we sell to the world, so our product doesn't usually arrive 3 to 6 weeks later into the market, and that's when we get paid. So we have to do a lot of planning around what's coming in and what's going out to make sure that we've got enough dollars to make sure everyone gets paid. Sales margin reports, we run them daily as well, by customer and by product. I've got some of the little bit of this stuff to show you if it comes up okay. And that's just really to pick up are we selling it for what we expected to sell it for? Are some customers providing better returns than others? And that sort of helps us sort of guide where we sell things and picks up mistakes. Some America wants to get sold in pounds, not kilos. So sometimes the guys put it in a price per kilo rather than a price per pound, and it picks it up in these reports, so it becomes quite evident. So we can keep on top of things and make sure errors aren't made or and can be addressed. Debtors reports, that's what people owe us. So we've sold product, and people might have 14 days to sell us or to pay us or pay us a month later, and we track those payments, so we need the money coming in. And also that tells you whether hey, shut up. It tells us we may not it might be risky to sell to a customer. So if they're getting up, we've got credit limits for each of them, and if they're not paying their bills or they're late paying their bills, it tells you something that you may not want to sell to these guys. Just be careful. The variance reporting, that's what we expected to sort of deliver and what we ended up delivering. Why is that? Is it because we processed more lambs? Is it because our repairs and maintenance cost was way up for the week? We go through all that, and then if we're reviewing it all the time, then we can do things about it and change it if we can. Benchmarking, we've also got a couple of other businesses that we sort of part own that do similar things to us, so we can benchmark and say, are they doing things better than we are, or are we doing things better than they are, and why is that, so that we can then again try and adopt what they do, or share what we do, and benefit both parties. So hard to read, but this is what just put one of these out for every plant each day by 11 o'clock. And the top part of it, the top couple of boxes, how much we processed, how much we paid for it to the farmer, so we know that by We know that by about 10 o'clock the next day. The bit in the middle is what we've produced out of it, and you'll see in the where those sort of orange highlighted areas are. That's what we expected the value of it to be on a per kilo basis, and then we actually say what did we achieve on a per kilo basis, and then it might be things like staff didn't turn up that day, so they couldn't produce to what they were supposed to because we didn't have enough staff. It might be that packaging ran out. It could be that they didn't do a very good job on yield, or they got a different mix of livestock than what they expected. And so we're looking at this, and most of the plants have the answers for us by the Hock and why it has been hit, because it's or missed. And we need to know both ways, because if we're doing particularly well, we want to keep doing that. Yeah. And if we don't hit the targets, we want to know as well, so that we can jump all over that and try and change things if we need to. And then down the bottom is all about our costs, really, and labour. A lot of these costs, because it's daily, we don't know how much we spent on repairs and maintenance yesterday. It's just an estimate based on what our average is for a day, and then at the end of the week we do a comparison to this of our actuals once all the invoices are in, and that's where we do our variance reporting. So this is an example of a debtors report. So these are our customers on the left. This is how much money they owe us, and if they were paying on time, everything would be in this column. And then these columns, might be a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later. So ideally, you want everything in that column, so you're getting your money on time. And most of it is, fortunately. There's 6 million in that right-hand column, and then there's 400,077, and then there's $280,000 in this column now. Our main customer there in that column that's making that up, we actually own that customer in the States, so it's not so important for us that we don't get the money off them, because it's actually part of our business. So, and we control this we put credit limits, so each customer we're saying we will give you up to $2 million of meat at any one time, and we don't want to go past that, because we feel like there could be a risk of if you too much debt, and if something happens to them, then we've got to write that off as a bad debt, which wouldn't be very pretty. So, and then it's got the salesman or the person responsible for that customer, and some notes. So we track this several times a week. When we're contacting the customers, when you're going to pay us, what's the hold up, and we write in notes there and just track it, so that we're on top of it all the time. This is a sales margin report. So there's actually 2 reports here. I just took a bit out of both. So the top one is by product. So every day we do a sales margin report, and we say that this is what we sold, this is what we expect to sell it for, and the margin that we expected to make, and that's what we expected, and what we actually realised for it. And there's a column over third on the right, which is a sales margin. That's pretty quickly shows, if there's a red number there, that you haven't made the sales margin, and it might be for a reason that we've got a leftover parcel of meat or something that missed a shipment or something, and we've got to sell it at a lower price. We generally try and make sure we make 7% as our sales margin, and so anything below that we look at, and then we'll get reports that go up to 30%, because when we produced it, it wasn't sold. When we went to ship it, the market's gone up, and we get more for it. So, and then we do it by customer, and we have a look at which customers are providing the best returns, and then we can manipulate our customer base to make sure that we've got the best group of customers there, the ones that are providing the best returns. There might be some customers in there, we run a promotion with them for a period, so they're moving a lot more product, but we've decided to give them a price break to be able to do that, those kind of things. So we track all that through there to make sure it all makes sense, that there's a reason for everything that is happening. Right.
Oh, yes.
this is moving on to just next bit. What that question was. It was
It'll be
around,
something about
technology.
innovation or new technology, yeah. Now, just remember that I know what's in the benchmark, so whatever he's talking about is really relevant stuff. So I know that it's like a lot of information to take in, but try to stay focused and get as much notes down as you can. Yeah, because it is super helpful stuff. And, you know, he can't come in every week, so we have to get what we can out of him in the nicest possible way. So yeah, the question I said to you was, can you describe any new technologies
Yeah.
that Ovation has implemented, and how have these improved productivity?
Yep.
Yeah. Bye, Kate.
Okay, so we're quite heavily labour intensive in our, like, so there's 300 to 400 people working in our plants, and what we try and do all the time is try and improve productivity, and that's usually by doing more with less or the same, or that's usually about it really. And so we do things like we've got lots of automation in the plate in our factories, and I'll show you a little bit of those, and we do them for different reasons. Like this here, I don't know if you've heard of MRI, which is a medical thing if you go for an MRI scan. So we use MRI technology to measure the fat within the meat. Okay, and that's really what we're trying to do is identify better lamb, so that we can segregate, grade out product that's going to be better eating experience for someone. So that is a smart bit of technology. It's all automated. We don't need someone there doing anything. It just travels past, and that goes in and gives us a measurement on that piece of meat. And that's just all about trying to get a premium for ourselves and for the farmers. This is in our pet food operation. So those big chambers there are freeze dryers. We've just recently put these in, and these are particularly expensive. There's about $30 million worth of equipment in this factory.
What did you say they were? Freeze dryers?
They're freeze dryers,
Oh.
yeah. So and it's mostly for pet food, and nutraceuticals also. So things like lip powders and stuff that they put into encapsulated. But this here is really to be able to deliver for a customer. We don't own the pet food, we make it for others, and we need the range of equipment to be able to produce all their different sort of pet food products. And the good thing about this product is freeze drying. It's actually these type of freeze dryers, we can add a heat step to it. Sounds a bit weird in a freeze dryer, but we add a heat step and we kill all the bugs in there, so which others don't.
Is the pet food made of byproducts from your factories?
Yeah. So originally we started this pet food
yeah.
business.
Yeah, I think I remember you
just
saying that.
to take in our byproducts.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and we sold them. So we sell about 20,000 tonne of ingredients out of our
Everyone's sick and carking it.
Is it like dog food? Is it pet food like dog food?
Talking about dog food.
Dog food, cat food, yeah, all different ingredients. Fish, venison, lamb.
It's
beef.
sold under what brands? Like what?
There's the main two brands that we produce for are called K9 Natural, and another one's called Animals Like Us. They are the two main brands that we produce for. We've got our own pharmaceutical company based out of that factory as well, called Starbit Bio, but we mainly sell ingredients. We freeze dry them, make them into powders, and then send them around the world, and they do things with them, like put them into, health supplements and stuff like that.
That'd be pretty innovative stuff, wouldn't it? Like,
It is, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, all of this really comes back to the core company and the lamb that we're processing. We're trying to get more value out of it so that it keeps it profitable for the farmer and for us, because we want grass, not trees. We just put this into one of our factories, which is just a new packaging equipment. Traditionally, you get a piece of meat, you get to put it in a bag, you put it in a vacuum packer. Some of this quite smart vacuum packers and stuff like that, but this one here we don't need to put it in a bag, we just put it into this machine that's moving all the time, and it does the rest for us, and it also minimises the amount of plastic, so we don't have so much packaging waste. It requires less people to get the product out the other end, and it gives a better shelf life for the product, so it lasts longer. So we can get it to the market, we have better outturn in the market, less claims and things like that. So it's a neat bit of equipment. This is what we're doing at the moment. We're using AI and cameras to be able to identify different products as they come down production lines, and then the robot picks stuff there and puts it into a cart and things like that. So again, it's primarily about trying to fill labour spot, replace labour, but it also, they get it right most of the time, these robots and the AI, so you don't put the wrong product in the wrong box, or put a bit of bone in a boneless product and you end up with claims and things like that. So it does help standardise things, better reputation for your products and stuff like that. So this is still a work in progress, but it's quite exciting, this area. We have a computerised maintenance management system, which so all of our machines, and they've got barcodes on them. We can just go up and scan them, and we can put like if something wrong with it, someone can put a work order request in there, and it just sends it out to whoever needs to do their job. They need to then go in and fill it out and say they've done this job, this is what it cost us, and how long it took. And what we can build up records over time and say this machine's cost this much money to maintain over this period of time. Is it time to perhaps buy a new machine, or we can put reminders in the system that after so many days we want to do a maintenance overhaul on it and things like that. So this just makes sure that we, it really turns, instead of fixing things as they break, you fix them before they break so that they last longer and we get better efficiencies through our factories. So and it saves money, and it also saves a whole lot of admin work trying to track all this stuff. So very hard to see again, but we've got invoice processing software so we used to get all invoices by mail. It used to come by mail, paper invoice. That started changing to email and stuff like that. So and we used to have to sign them off. We'd go through whoever had ordered it, they have to sign it off, and then if it was over a certain values, a bit like the delegated authorities, it follows that process, and then someone else has to approve it. So if something over $10,000 is spent on it at a plant, it comes to me, and I've got to sign all those invoices to make sure that our plant managers are spending money wisely. So this system allows us to scan. Basically, we get all our invoices by email now. It goes into a system. It is trained to recognise each format of invoice, where to look on it. So it puts in a description. It says what it is. It fills out the price. It knows who's it from, so it sends it to the right person to approve. And then we've got to code it. So we code it to different cost centres in our business, and then that person approves it, and it goes on to the next person in the delegated authorities. So this saves a lot of time and saves a whole lot of paperwork and stuff being lost. We used to file all this stuff, so you get filing cabinets full of invoices, and now it's just all online, so we can and then you can go back and find it and analyse it and stuff like that. So this this is a big game changer in people don't think about how much it takes to pay an invoice, just one invoice. And if you get an invoice for say $20, it probably costs us more to process that invoice than what the invoice is worth. So you want to streamline it as much as you can. So that was sort of, is that enough on you, Tech?
Yes. Although the only thing I would say is when you do implement a new technology like the packaging or systems like that, is there a temporary cost or training or downturn in anything because you've implemented that, or is it pretty streamlined?
No, there's a lot of effort needs to go into planning these things,
Yeah.
scoping them to make sure that it's going to meet the requirements of what you need. We tend to get people involved that operate in that area from as early as possible, so
Yeah.
they do the job, they know it better than we do, they know what will help and what won't help, and also if they've been involved they tend to own it, rather than saying, oh, this is your system guys, you put it in, it's a lemon, we're not going to make it work kind of thing. They get on board and they make things work, so, and that involves, a lot of them get involved in the decision making about what we do, but and then in training, we get dedicated training. We may train someone in one plant and then we use them to train people across the wider business. So there's a lot of investment goes into the people side first, and and a lot of things we investigate and we spend a lot of money on, but we don't actually end up doing them. So because you don't know, sometimes they're pretty complex things like that wastewater plant that I showed you earlier. We capture methane off that, and we're going to use it to run our boiler to produce hot water, and we got funding off the government to do it, but then we did a detailed design and costing, and it was phenomenally expensive and it didn't make sense. But we'd already spent probably about $80,000 on looking into that, but it's better to spend that $80,000 and stop than keep going. So it's all about doing the work up front to make sure that what you want to try and put in place is actually going to deliver what you need. And quite often afterwards, like on projects like that, the pet food project, we'll do a project that was about $30 million. We do it afterwards. We say, this, when we put it up to the board for approval and the bank for approval, thinks that this is what it was going to deliver. Has it delivered or not? We actually go back and review it, and we learn from that. So if areas haven't delivered, or it's cost us a bit more in areas, or it's gone well, we can document that. So next time we do a project, we can pull it out and say, dust that off. Yep.
When you get like the new technology stuff, like the packaging thing, do you have to let people go?
Good question.
Generally, sometimes there is, but we also find it very hard to get people. So we don't normally make people redundant. We just, as someone leaves, we don't employ a new person. So we reduce our numbers that way. A lot of this equipment is not actually, doesn't replace people, it just makes the job easier. So it might be less hours that are needed to do a job, but it doesn't make their job go away. That person might just get some different other work to top up their day rather than getting rid of them. We don't. I mean, we need to stay competitive to make sure that we can compete with other companies doing the same thing. So you do need to invest in these things and become as efficient and productive as you can, really. But we really, at my time, we closed the factory and made people redundant. But apart from that, we've never made people redundant out of this process. We just haven't sometimes replaced people. Yeah. But sometimes we add new equipment that needs new people to run as well. But it makes sense because we get better return out of the product. So it's not, it can be the other way around. Okay, so production processes. That was the last one on sort of, I think it was flow.
Yep, job, batch, or flow.
Job, batch.
Did you guys remember learning about that? Job, batch, flow.
So we don't use just one. We actually, different parts of our business use different methods, but in our core processing business, which is processing livestock into meat, we use a combination of batch and flow.
Yeah.
And the reason we do that is, firstly, we're processing for farmers, so their livestock comes in as a mob. So we need to be able to keep that mob, for a start, separate and gather all the information about it so we can pay the farmer. But we process that in a continuous way, and then we just go on to the next mob. So we don't have breaks in between any of this processing. This is in the first part of the process. But lambs, cattle are different. They've got ear tags and stuff that you can actually probably process them in any order, and you can scan the ear tag and know which farm it belongs to. But lambs don't have that, and it's not that practical to have that. So yeah, we do that, and then we can we can provide information to the farmer on his mob or her mob. So after that process, though, it's a bit of the same, but we go into further processing where we actually start disassembling that lamb, and opposite of like a car factory. A car factory is going through and you're just adding bits to it, and it gets components and whatever gets made into a car. We start with the full thing at the start, and when we take it through a process of taking it to bits, and we try and do that in the best way that optimises the value of it. But at that stage we've mixed all the different farmers, but we've actually then grouped everything by the weight of that carcass primarily, and how much fat it's got on the carcass. So again, it's a batch of carcasses that we put through, but it's just a mixture of farmers, and we do that, we put them through in batches of similar weight ranges, and that is to make sure that we've got standardisation, and less variability. So we've put production plans for a weight range through, they're producing this for a run, and then they'll change to another grade. So that way we can, there's only certain machine settings that need to be the same for that grade. People are doing, we're not doing bonus legs and bone-in legs and another bonus leg all at the same time. We're doing sort of tending to do one, and we can better utilise our staff and our skills. So that's what we do through that part of the process. Again, it's a kind of continuous batch process, but it's again, it's all about minimising downtime between things, so that there is sometimes when we have a bit of downtime, we have to clear out the product out of the room and then start again on the next grade sometimes. But when it comes to delivering the product to the market, which is our cold storage end, it's usually done on a dry order basis. So they'll get an instruction to get a container in from the port for a certain customer to go to front. So, and they will have that go and put that order together out of the cold store, and put that in a separate container and send off. Pet food, nutraceuticals, again, mostly on a batch or can be an order basis as well. It's recipe based a lot of the time, and we tend to run as long a periods as possible. You get efficiencies out of running on the same thing. You're not switching back and forth and losing time. You don't have to clean as much because you're on the same type of recipe. So we do that through our pet food side of things.
We might have to do a tour sometime. I'm not sure how keen they'd be, but I'd be fascinated. It'd be real interesting.
Let's see the micro tour here. This is the further processing this is where we break down the carcasses. So you can see it's all on conveyor belts. So that's why it's a flow process. This stuff here is all automated weighing equipment, so the cuts travel down that conveyor and it automatically weighs it and puts it into the same weight ranges. So you do French racks or something, you're getting two the same size. Customer knows he's buying, that they are buying a product that weighs this. They know how much it's going to cost for their in their restaurant. They know how long to cook it. It's going to be the same all the time. So, but you have all the cuts flowing through, and it's usually just a continuous line down different lines from one end of the factory to the other. You can't really see them, but the carcasses are hanging up at the far end, and they're getting disassembled as they come down. And a photo's been taken from the packaging area. So,
Do they get cut up by a person or by a machine, the carcass, or a bit of both?
Both.
Obviously, people there, but
Yeah.
from the full carcass, is it like?
Some these bandsaws
Oh, yeah.
and these different machines that we put bits to cut in, and they do different things to it. So that's generally how we. I didn't show you the first part of the process because that's where the blood and guts is kind of stuff. So it's a bit messier. So that's it basically.
That's it. Amazing. So much. I'll just pull.